Hey guys, it's Tahi. Hopefully the microphone issues are now fixed. I believe they'll be better. Hopefully not too loud. But today the video I wanted to make is from my raid team about how do I prepare for an N tier boss fight. Now I don't want this to be confused with how do I prepare as a raid leader. This is solely how do I prepare as a player. If I was not a raid leader, or even once I get past all my raid leading preparation stuff, what do I start doing to prepare for myself? And a lot of the stuff I do personally when I prepare as a raid leader for fights will mix with the personal responsibility of stuff. So one of the things that I've learned over the course of my career, for better or for worse, is when I raid lead, if I give myself an individual assignment, my raid leading falls off a cliff. That's something that I personally am trying to improve upon, but I think one of the biggest things is to know as a player what your weaknesses are and know that you don't have to always carry that burden and that there's other players in your raid team that can help carry those things for you. So what I generally do when I'm preparing for a fight, and this is just for your visual seeing, I don't do this anymore, but this is my thought process. I watch the fight once just to get an overall understanding of the fight. And then I watch again, specifically looking at mechanics. I think one of the biggest things that people do that hurts them the most is they go and watch a kill once. They're like, okay, I kind of get it. Let's go. And that's not good enough. If you are a guild that just shows up and plays, then yeah, that's completely fine. But for the expectations I have for my raid team, that's not acceptable. I have the expectation, I've said this in a previous video, of I want you to have a plan for every mechanic, and if your plan fails, then I'm cool with it. But you better have a plan about how you're going to deal with it. And one of the common, and I'm going to say cop out, which might piss some people off, but I really don't love when people say, I have to do it myself before I fully understand it. And I think that's a load of crap. I think if you prepare well enough, and if you take enough time and dedication to preparing in a very smart way, that's not true, because that's the excuse I used to always use as well, was until I get this mechanic, I don't know how I'm going to deal with it. I don't know how to play it. So I just got to get it and then I'll figure it out. As I got more comfortable raid leading and more comfortable with, hey, I need to think about this when I'm preparing for a raid fight for my players and for myself, I started to recognize, like, wait, I don't need to do that. If I watch enough and care enough and study enough and think about how I'm preparing for my fights in a very smart way, in a logical way, I can figure out all those things before I pull the boss even once. For an example, like, we're going to look at Queen Anne in this video because Galley's a joke, but on Mugsy, I knew before the first pull of Mugsy where every single jail went. I set up my liquid reminders to be really, really good. I knew what direction, if I got a jail, it went here. If I got an ice lance, it went here. I knew all of those things. I didn't need to pull the fight once to know all those things because my preparation was just focused on learning those things before I pulled the fight once. So after I watched the first time through just to understand the overall flow of the fight, then I watch again, specifically look at mechanics and how they work. And then there's questions you have to ask. Are they solely individual? So it's just me. I just got to figure it out. And there's no like coordination. Is there coordination? Is coordination by the entire team? Does it take coordination, but only by the people who also got the mechanic as me? Which is like a really good thing for like Mugsy, for an example. And there are some things on Ansric that happen too. What seems to be the most dangerous spots, that's for, hey, I really need to spend a lot of time learning that one part of the fight because that's probably going to take us the most pulls. And the more mental reps I get, the faster we're going to get past that hurdle. But also to be like, hey, do I need to be popping an offensive here? Is this a Hellstone health pot scenario for just prog? Is it for all, like, the entire fight? Should I just be hard committing this here the entire time because it's always going to be difficult no matter how many pulls and how comfortable I get with that part? I'm a huge believer in you have to watch kills that have raid leaders making calls and making vocal calls, which is why I like watching Liquid. Obviously they're doing Race World first stuff, and by the time we get to some fights, it's been nerfed and it's a shell of its original self, but that doesn't mean you still can't learn something from listening to raid leaders. Obviously, this is kind of a slippery slope. You don't want to go to someone that you don't trust. You really want to find videos of raid teams that you really like to watch because you know they're good and they're dependable and they're going to make good calls, and it's things that you can trust. So I would definitely recommend that. And that's not for the raid leader to learn from. I think as a raid leader, it's super beneficial to learn that stuff. But I think more as just a player to hear like, hey, super dangerous part coming up, or everyone hit a personal here, and then the damage comes out, like those things, because it can help you identify like, okay, if they're still using a personal when they're about to kill the boss, that means I should just get used to using a personal there all the time as well. Make sure that the video you're watching resembles the strategy earlier as planned. Hopefully they're putting it out early enough so that you can do that. And then don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask your raid leader questions, ask your officer core questions. Make sure you get a full understanding of everything. I think one of the things for better or for worse in WoW and WoW players is there's a lot of social anxiety to ask for help. And I don't think anyone can get mad when you ask for help. The only thing that people can get mad about when you ask for help is when you're, X pulls deep and you should know this thing already and you don't. That's really the only thing. So anyways, this is probably going to be a little bit of a longer video. We're 6 minutes in already, and we haven't even started watching the video. So we're going to look at Liquid's Queen Anne Turret kill. And this is under the assumption that you've already done part 1. You've already watched the video to get an overview of the fight yourself. So now we're looking into other things and other mechanics we need to watch for. So the first thing is always boss positioning. Whether you're ranged, whether you're a melee, this is the biggest thing. And one, the tanks obviously need to know where the boss goes to, but like on how the fight starts, like here, where there's a huge bait, you need to understand like, hey, right off the rip, my positioning is just baiting correctly, and that's it. The biggest reason why I'm such a huge believer in like, hey, let's prepare super well is the way you get more damage isn't by like, yes, pulling the boss more is going to get you more comfortable and you could do more damage. But one of the biggest things you can do to get more damage is get more comfortable with your movement, especially as like a ranged DPS, and how you are going to put yourself around the map as the fight progresses. And if you can spend more time thinking about your movement and be like, oh, I'm out of range for this, or I'm out of range for these ads, or like, oh, I'm doing unnecessary movement going there, and then I have to go backtrack the way I did for the next mechanic coming out, but I could have just stayed there the entire time. It allows your brain power to go into more of those things because you're already super comfortable with the mechanics. You don't even have to think about the mechanics anymore. Like obviously you still have to play the fight, but you allow your brain power to go to like other things that matter as well, positioning being one of them. So you get these web roots that come out. Obviously about everyone use some sort of root remove immunity type thing to break out of these, but you get to see that like from a general raid, even though if I haven't seen what my raid lead's plan is yet, I can see like, okay, just about everyone is placed around the boss. So that means when those first green circles go off, I don't get to go run off to Narnia. I still have to stay close to the boss. So I can place these. And wake it out. And then you know that you have to do these web blades. And this is one of those mechanics where like watching a kill video can be in your favor, but also be against your favor, because you probably can hope that like, hey, no one's getting killed to this anymore, especially a guild as good as Liquid. So maybe I should go and see like, hey, if I do get hit by one of these, what happens? Is it a one shot? Is it not a one shot? If I know I'm going to get hit by one and there's like, I just position myself in a poor position and now I'm screwed, like, is that going to get me killed? Well, if you do, you should have muscle memory built up. Be like, okay, I know I'm screwed here. I'm going to hit a personal and see if I can survive it still. Like little things like that. Emergency, what I like to call the oh shit button usage. The other thing as well is when these web lines come out, if let's say I'm dank scale here, I have every single direction. I have 360 degrees to dodge here. But if I'm against the edge, I remove about 180 degrees of which I can dodge. Like I have, if I'm Dazzler in this situation, I'm right up against the edge, but I don't have a lot of room here, right? Like I have that extra inch of room to use. And if I need more than that, then I just don't get it because I'm pinned up against the edge. So when you get like these mechanics that are going to area of denial you, it's important that you think about your positioning in a way that's going to be like, okay, I don't want to get pinned between a rock and a hard place. So I should be pre-positioning myself before this mechanic even comes out so that I do have as much room as possible to avoid the mechanic. And like one of the things that we found out when we progged Ansarek was that exact thing, was the difficult part of the fight. When we get to, I'll show it, a phase 1 at least. It's going to happen. So this is one of those things where like, if I get a mechanic, how do I deal with it? And how do I deal with it, not just for myself, but also for the other person that gets it? So obviously in Ansarek, when you popped, you got this giant green circle. It's important for everyone to know, like, where are you taking this at? And not just yours, but where's every single person taking it at? So you could see like, I think it was Lil Stick for Shakib took his over here, and then the range DPS from Cube went back here. So that way everyone is coordinated, not just the people that got the mechanics, but also the people that didn't get the mechanic, about where they were going so that they can continue to damage the boss, but also not be in the mechanic simultaneously. So again, another bait, drop the green circles. And if you notice, when everyone baits, everyone's back in on boss. Everyone is back here. Everyone's stacked in on boss. Another good bait. So like that's what I'm thinking about, is like, what does my positioning have to be? And it's like, okay, there's going to be a lot of baiting, and all those baits are super close to boss. So if I ever hear my raid leader say bait, that's probably means I got to get closer to the boss. Another route, see how they're getting super close to boss yet again, get out of them. And this entire time, like, I'm keeping track of like, okay, the boss is just moving in this, whatever clockwise, counterclockwise direction. Next is going to be lines into another reactive toxin pop, and this is about to be the most difficult part of the fight. So once again, we're going to do these pops. Everyone's safe. And notice what they're going to do here. They're actually going to take these far. So if you are this person, it's important for you to talk to your raid leader to know like where they want you to take these reactive toxins every single time. And also important that the rest of the raid team that isn't getting them knows where they're going so that they don't go in the same direction. So if I was a ranged DPS and I followed Impec here on the outside of the room, that's a problem, because now I'm going to get stuck in this mechanic and I'm losing damage when I could have just stayed on the boss the entire time. And now we're dodging, and now we're going to get web lines. And this is where we've learned that whole don't play against the outside of the room situation. Because like, look, like if I'm Beambaker, who's a tank, that's Scott, I believe, I am stuck back there. Like, I have to get hit by webline no matter what. And he's a tank, so he can survive it. But if I was like an enhancement shaman or a warrior or something, then I'm screwed. So like, that's why 360 degrees of dodging is always good. And then if you see like with this liquefy that's going to happen, they don't care so much about stacking under the boss. It's kind of a free-for-all within reason, right? You don't want to go and drop stuff on the next one. Same thing with these roots. We're still surrounded by the boss, and that's what I'm talking about. You should know going into these fights that like, okay, every time I get roots, it's going to be underneath the boss. It's going to be by the boss. It's going to be up against green shit, whatever it might be. Those are the things you don't need pulls to learn. These web blinds, you know they're bad. You don't need pulls to learn like, okay, it's going to kill me. Now we're going into Reactive Toxins 4, which is the quadruple break. We'll brace to world first. And then we're also going to get roots here, which almost no one else did this, but they just dropped against old stuff here, got out, and got ready to go pop. And there's also going to be web lines here. Bait the web lines away. So there's getting web lines right now. Notice how they're not like standing on their what's going to be their reactive toxin circle. They're baiting this mechanic away, and now they're going to step in and get safe. Now, since I'm arranged in this perspective, playing as THD, I have more time. If I was in melee, you would not have a lot of time. So you would have to bait away so that your movement allows you to get into your circle when those web lines are coming to a close, while simultaneously not getting hit. So big dodges here, and we know we're getting pulled in. And there's nothing really here other than like, okay, everyone's stacking together. We're going to play this together really nice and tightly, and we're going to get yanked in. I'm like, okay, health-wise, everyone's kind of doing okay. There's rot damage, but we're doing okay outside of that. Okay, now we're dodging waves. Okay. And if you notice here, like as a melee, they're kind of stacked on top of each other. They don't care about the little circle damage that's happening. So you shouldn't care about it either. And now you're going to get pulled in again. Everyone's getting together again. Again, pretty much stacked on top of each other. But also, as soon as they get hit, gripped in, look at the frames. Like you have like a hunter, a DH, a ret paladin that took 0 damage. And then an H pallet took 0 damage, which kind of tells you like, oh, they immune this damage, right? So if I'm playing an immunity class, that tells me I'm probably immuning this hit. But everyone else gets absolutely chunked. I do it again. And this is the one that they have to beat to go into intermission. Outside of this, we're just dodging again. We don't care if we're stacked up on each other as melee or as ranged as we do these. It's a non-problem. And now we're going to push. And you're going to notice that the raid team is going to split 2 different directions. Important for you to know which one is yours. That should be according to your raid leader. And now we're just doing these things. Now, you see these purple balls are spawning. And you see a lot of melee underneath the mini boss, which is correct. But you see on the ranged, these little circle things are spawning. So that has to tell me as a ranger, like, oh, when we get to this part, I can't go into melee. I can't go into the boss, and I have to stand away from melee, so I bait these things correctly. Now we're getting knocked up, just like in Heroic. Nothing changes here. Go and hit these guys. This weak aura assignment. So you should see this weak aura assignment and be like, okay, what is that? And also, what's this portal thing? That wasn't in Heroic. Well, by watching the fight once through, you should have noticed that, like, okay, that portal's important for some reason. Also, when we were down here, that portal is still here as well. So that means we must be doing something with that portal. People are going through it. So you have to see, like, okay, I'm going through it now. And then simultaneously, okay, they went through it. What happens when they get through it? Did they get a dot? Did they get an extra mechanic? Well, they did get an extra mechanic, and it dropped a puddle in the back of the room. So you have to also know, like, okay, if I'm a person going through a portal, I'm going to drop a puddle. It's important for me to know and look at my raid leader's plan so I know where I'm dropping that out. You don't need to do polls to learn that. You don't need polls to see a weak aura that tells you, like, hey, you're going through a portal in the next 5 seconds if I'm fired up or Atlas, right? You don't need a weak aura you don't need to wipe once to know, like, where you're supposed to drop your puddle at. And then this is one of the most devastating parts of phase 2, just from learning it. Notice how everyone goes to the opposite side that the beam is pointing, and that they helped bait the beam pretty dang well here. They kind of have players all over the spot, but they had a lot of stacked up to try to beat the beam in one direction so that no one would get shot into it. Also dodging those. People went through the portal again. And now we're just cranking. And like, look what Impex's Liquid Reminder says. Take gate and go left. This is something that you can do before you pull the boss once. If you know you're on this gate assignment, you can put into your Liquid Reminders. So the first time you ever get here, you know exactly what you're doing. So he goes through it. And he has bait beam now. We're baiting the little shooter beam. Another pull in here. Another thing you do too is, like, he goes over to the range side, so you see all these like alkali ads that are hanging from the top of the room. You should know what they do too. Like, if you don't kick, it's just a one shot, right? So stuff like that. So now we go to the last one, and again, we have these purple orbs. What did we learn from the first part of this phase 2? That these spawn on ranged. So we have to know that if our ranged DPS or a healer, once again, that we have to bait these away for our melee. So we don't want to get too close, but we also want to be close enough so that we're not making healers' lives miserable. And also still, we're going through portals and we're dropping stuff still. So we want to be aware of that as well. Now, what you're going to see here is Dankscale. He has this and it's just not going off. So you know, like, hey, if I transition intermission, someone still has that, it's completely fine. There's no problems. Now, this is where you can get easily turned around. The entire boss room is a mirror. So it's up to you to understand that, like, okay, when we go from one side to the next, I have to figure out what side are we collecting to as a raid team. That should be in the raid leader's raid plan for you to figure out. But also you should know if I come up from, I believe these guys came up from the range side, then I have to go to the melee side of the room. So if I did the, the range side with all the Alkalite adds, they have to kick from the rafters, that I have to go to the opposite side of the room. And now we are just DPSing this circle, probably bad thing to be into. And you see all the ranged DPS are actually back here where the camera's at. Why are they here? And why are all the melee stacked? Well, must be baiting something. And we're baiting puddles, and we're baiting puddles, and we're baiting puddles, and now we're killing all these ads, and we're stopping them from hitting the boss. So this is like, okay, maybe I save damage here type of situation. That's kind of what your thought process goes into. I do the mechanic of baiting those circles well, and then I blow up these little ads so that they don't kill us. Now we're thinking about boss positioning again, and what's happening with the next part of the fight. So now we get blaze lines, and now these Alkalite ads are spawning. So it's up to you to decide where the boss is going to be taken. He's the only monk, so he's probably just tagging them so they get the physical damage debuff put on these guys. But you also have to notice, like, pick up essence. Like, okay, what essence? Where are these essences coming from? Well, if you know this fight, you know it's coming from the ads. But you also need to be aware, like, okay, when this Alkalite that we're on right here, this X1 drops, it falls right where his body lands. So that should tell you, like, okay, if I'm assigned to pick up an essence, I know how to pick it up and I know what it's going to be. Simultaneously, it should also tell you, if I'm not assigned to pick up an essence, I know where exactly not to be, right? So you can base your movement around where to be and where not to be. So as this Alkalite ad is dying, he's right where it needs to be, and no one else is right where it needs to be. And notice where all the melee are. They're on the boss's butt, close enough where they can still hit, but also not so far back that the essence back here is going to accidentally get picked up by them either. So, like, when you're preparing for boss fights, like, yes, there's a lot to take into account. I think more than what people want to take into account, but like it's kind of an art form to learn how to prepare for this. I don't want to say it's like school by any means, but you definitely have to take it, like, you can't just watch a fight and be lazy about it and not take like any mental notes or like write anything down. Like, I would strongly encourage people to write things down so that, the next part of what this video series is going to be is like looking at logs, that you have things to go look at in logs. Dropping the essence. Okay, he's dropping that thing he picked up. Where is he dropping it at? He's dropping it in the center of the area that they were just in. They're moving the boss over here. Okay, why are they moving the boss over here? And what are they doing? Okay, everyone's stacked up again. Oh, we're repeating the beginning of phase 3. Got it. Okay, makes sense. Oh, and those ads are out again. Okay, got it. Cool. So now you're kind of getting the dance of what this entire phase is like. And now we're going to get these shackles. Okay, what are these shackles? What do they do? If you've done heroic, you know what they do. It goes on 3 people. Where are they going? This is you have to look at your own raid leader's raid plan for this, but also watch the health pools as these blow up. Bang. They do a lot of damage, and they are inside of an AMZ, and who knows what other defensives or personals that people have going on right now. So what that tells you is like, oh, this is going to hit like a Mack truck. That might be a personal from me. I should definitely personal the first time we get here so I don't die to it for no reason. Oh, we have more ads out. And as we go to these ads, we see like the essences are hanging out by these new ads that are spawning. So we don't want to accidentally pick those up. We kill these ads, we kill those shackles. And it's like, okay, how are we killing these things? We're just one by one hitting these things down. And now we're getting new portals. And now we're getting new lines. It's like, okay, where do these portals go? Well, they have an assignment for one is ranged and one is melee. They go and take care of it. And notice that they kill these essences. They're down on the ground, but no one has accidentally picked them up, but they're about to. So they're going to start picking these up. Boss goes to the center. You're going to go to this portal. And what's going to happen again? just like that, and dropping essences, and everyone can see like where people are dropping them so they don't accidentally pick them up. And now the boss is moving. We had shackles during that. And now we're going to stack up again, bait these puddles out, and do it all over again. Kill these little ads, while also dodging these lines. And now we have more alkalites coming out. So same thing, we're just trying to make sure we don't accidentally pick up one of these while we're doing this part of the fight. They drop more teleport circles out, dodging these. Notice that when the teleports come out, they shoot circles out. And now we're picking up essences. And that right there was a really good thing to see. So like, watch how he's going to Warlock it out here, and he's putting it on the essence. It doesn't pick it up right away, so he has to double back for it. So that makes you aware that like, okay, this might be a little buggy. I have to pay attention to that. Now we're running out. Dodging these while also dropping. And now for most people, the boss fight would have been dead long ago. But like, this is just one instance of like telling you like how you should be preparing for boss fights and the mechanics. So like, what did we just see from everything past this first bullet point? Watching again to see specific mechanics and how they work. So what did we learn? We learned about the reactive toxins and the green circles and how where those mechanics go versus where does the raid go when I'm a person that doesn't get that reactive toxin circle. We learned when we kill those alkalites exactly where do we stand or where do we not stand to pick up or not pick up in essence. The teleport things in phase 3, we learned that as well. Baiting the beam in phase 2, even though that video wasn't good at doing it, it definitely said to bait the beam, so that gives you an idea that maybe your raid team is going to want to bait it as well. And then the phase 2 ranged bait circles that came out, how to do that and how do they work. And you can go from there, like, is it an individual thing? Yes and no. Does it take coordination by the entire team? Absolutely. Does it take coordination by just people get the mechanic? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? So what seems to be the most dangerous spots? So this video didn't really cover that so much so outside of those 1 shackles, but that's part of looking at it like, okay, they're taking a lot of damage here. That's probably a good reference for using a personal. When we do the second video of reviewing logs, it's going to be a little bit better about how to review those things. Obviously, I had the sound turned off for that video, but in that video, you could hear all of Max's calls and all of the other raiders' calls that are making on the fly calls as well. It'll help you learn what is the difficult and the non-difficult parts of the fight by listening to other people. That video was probably the most common strategy that everyone used, so we have that taken care of. And now that you're done, what questions do you have? What questions do you need to go ask your raid leader? What questions do you need to go ask your other melee, your other ranged, your co-tank, your other healers to figure out how to deal with stuff? So yeah, that's just the first part that I do of preparing for a boss fight. There's going to be 2 follow-up videos to this about the information I learned from this video and how I'm going to take it and use it going forward. But preparing for raid fights well can be time consuming, but once you know what you're trying to figure out and the questions you're trying to answer for yourself, it may seem time consuming, but you can get it all done in like 20 minutes, like less than 1 mythic plus key. You can have everything planned out and ready to go. One of the things that I think is also an absolute crutch, along like what I said at the beginning of the video, was don't just watch the boss fight once and be like, okay, I'm gonna go. No, you're not. You didn't learn shit. You learned kind of how the fight works, but you didn't learn how to take care of mechanics. I think watching wipes is a really good way to see how people die. I think watching more than just a kill pull watching multiple different videos of the same boss dying, so that if the POV you're watching didn't get this mechanic, well, you don't know how to deal with that mechanic yet. So like, for example, if I watched a Muggsy kill, I'm not going to be able to see if that person never got Ice Lances or Frost Boots, whatever you want to call them, how they dealt with them. So how can you say you know how to deal with all those mechanics if you didn't watch someone actually get that mechanic and deal with them? You didn't. You're not prepared for that mechanic now. But the biggest thing is like, people just pay attention to like, let me learn my DPS here first. Let me learn how I'm going to use my CDs on this fight first. I think that's the last thing you do. Because your thought process is, it's not thinking about the correct thing. It's not thinking about, how do I learn this fight? It's thinking about, how do we do the most damage on this fight? Well, you know how you do the most damage on this fight? You survive. So you learn the fight, and that's how you do the most damage. It's just that simple. Don't overcomplicate it with like, I have to rank 1 my first kill. No, you don't. No one needs you to rank 1 for a first kill. If they do, then that raid team has different problems. So don't get caught up in those silly things that just straight up should not be a priority for you. So once again, I'm a huge believer in asking yourself, why is this important? Why should I do this? Why? And the overarching message that I would want you to take with you when you learn these things is, focus on learning the mechanics and how you're going to deal with them. Once again, if you find a video that person never gets whatever mechanic, you need to go find a different video of someone who does get that mechanic. It doesn't even have to be someone who plays your class, your spec, or whatever. It can be just anyone that gets it. So that way you know how to deal with it as well. Don't get caught up in just looking at damage. Make sure that we are constantly questioning like how to do these mechanics, and be so comfortable with the fight that you know how to deal with every single mechanic before you even get it once. And for some people, they may learn that very quickly by preparing for a boss fight, and some people may need to take like an entire hour to prepare for one boss fight. That's completely fine. Like, all of us are different, all of our brains work different, but you have to be able to put in that time investment if you want to kill bosses in a very productive and low pull count manner. And then, yeah, just figure out like the most dangerous spots so you know how you can survive. Like, that at the end of the day, that's how bosses die. Everyone lives. So please, I know this is a long video. I hope people learn something from this. The bottom line is just always question, always ask why. And if you can't figure out the why yourself, your raid leader probably does know, if they're good, that is. So anyways, there will be more videos following up this in the future. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about anything I said or anything I didn't point out in this video, please go ahead and comment. Jeez. And I will get back to you on those. So thank you guys. Have a good day.